Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? It's your boy Logan, JYA Drykage, here with fellow Drykage, my boy Miles, who once again did the thing and topped regionals with our favorite deck, Drytron. But this is a build like no other, and you are seeing it on the screen. You're not going to want to click off yet, though. You may have gotten the list, but you haven't heard all the knowledge that Miles is about to drop on us. So without further ado, Miles, first and foremost, how are you doing today?
Doing great. What's up, Logan? How's it going?
Great, my friend. Absolutely good. Even better now that you're here and doing our deck proud.
Of course. Played at the Houston Regional. I actually think this was historically the biggest or one of the biggest Houston Regionals ever. I think it was 560. I keep hearing different numbers. There's like 560, 580 people. So a big regional. And we did 10 rounds in one day. So.
Holy smokes. On a Sunday, too?
Sorry, Saturday. But
on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
10
wow.
rounds on a Saturday.
Still, that's insane. Now, my friend, I have to tell you, this list is intriguing. There are some things that I see in here that I like, and it's definitely following the trend of some of the Drytron lists that we're seeing see success. But at the same time, there's a lot in here that I question, and that's why I'm really going to be relying on you to drop the knowledge on why the heck we're doing some of these things. Before we do that, though, my friend, any shout-outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, so I've got a little team of Houston area players that I play with, Vitalio, Christian, Austin, Corey, and Colby, and they help me lab a lot, and we talk about theory and strategy, and my last top 16 at Hartford was due to a lot of their efforts, and this one as well. So the deck is unorthodox, but we've talked about all these cards in depth before, and Austin and Corey are some of the best Drytron players in Houston. We have like a cult here in Houston where we got a pile of us who play Drytron a lot. Also my friend Bryce. So my friend Bryce too. And those are basically my shout outs. Just all the Drytron players from Houston. So
let's go. Drytron or Ditryon. All right. Now, I'm going to do the super duper quick rundown of the list, and I'm going to stop when there's something we got to talk about. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds great.
All right, let's get things started. So obviously y'all see triple alpha, triple zeta. We're doing triple delta. I don't feel the need to question this, though. I think it's a fair point. You see no prosperity in the deck. We do like to draw cards. It's a fair thing to do to play 3 of that. And then double gamma. So just one off of our traditional ratio. And then we've got 1 diviner, of course, 1 choju. You see we're playing perfection. It makes sense. 1 herald and 1 lancia. And this is where our first question comes in. Kurikara Div Incarnate in the main deck. What the heck are you thinking?
Yeah, so when Kashtira is going blind, going first against any deck, I actually think all of the good Kashtira players should be locking spell and trap card zones. And in my experience, where we play, that's what they do. Because it's the spells that have the potential to out the Rise Heart or to out the Shangri-Ira. And so I wanted a monster out in the main deck so that I can get my spell and trap card zones unlocked. And standby phase, activating Shangri-Ira, this card punishes it so hard. And immediately dropping a 3k level 1 fairy on the field is actually kind of insane. Also, it covers a lot of the worst matchups that the deck has. So round 1, I played against a Runic Naturia deck. And if they activate Nat Beast or have Nat Beast, obviously that's a problem. Well, one of the ways you just FTK that deck when you go second, I know that sounds silly, but you tribute off their Nat Beast with Kurikara. Even if they have Naturia Blessing to bring it back, Kurikara is bigger than the Nat Beast. You swing over it, and then during the end phase, you get their Nat Beast. So, nice Runic deck.
That's savage.
Yeah, and I also played against the Mathmech deck, who ended on the Wicked and the IP. And the I don't remember I never remember the names of the XYZs, but the one that when they bring it back, it gets the negate and the send. Alan Bershin or Lapilation, one of those two. So he's got IP. He links IP and the Wicked and the other XYZ into a 3-mat Apo, and I'm staring down the Apo with 3 negates and the Lapilation or whatever it is with the 1 negate. So he sends off my Fafnir, and I had thrusted previously in the turn to add Change of Heart. He misses Change of Heart from my hand with the Send guy. So then I tributed off the negate, Change of Heart his Apo, and play for free afterwards. So Like the board breaking capabilities of the card are really insane, and actually the reborn in the end phase effect is actually really nuts for Drytron, because a lot of times what modern Drytron kind of misses when it's going second, especially if I side out perfection, which I do wind up doing a lot when I'm going second, is you're not going to have a negate. But anytime you play against Sword Soul, Naturia Runic, any deck that actually puts up a hard negate, you get one back in the end phase. So it's actually really, really good if you can't kill them. Now, of course, 99% of the time I'm killing you with Kurikara. But her board breaking game 1, game 2 was really nuts. Also, something I like to point out is there's a lot of unintended synergy with this card. She's a fairy, which means if I'm going first and I draw her, it's not even that bad because I can go grab orange early and play around Nib.
Right.
And she's a fairy for perfection to negate things with. So there is, and she's a level 1. So in a pinch, if you need to make Muveda or Assembled, which I shouldn't be playing, but we'll talk about that later, she's got some crazy synergy with the deck. So in testing, she was awesome, and at the tournament, she was really good. So
excellent. All right, respect on that. Something we're definitely gonna have to try here. And let's roll on through these rituals. We've got Perfection, I to 10. Now, the I to 10, it makes sense to me. This turns the Alpha Zeta line into the ability to add back the Ben 10 instead of the Choju. For those who are unaware, we've got a combo tutorial for it on the channel. We've got the triple Ben 10, of course, Natasha, Chaos Max for the lock, and the Draconids. I don't have any real questions about this. Just tell me how satisfied you were with this ratio. You are playing a lot of ritual names, I will say that much. Did you ever brick on all rituals?
No, I didn't. I really like Chaos Max. I think there may be a build floating around there somewhere that I would like to test that doesn't play Perfection or like the Fairy negates as a strategy and just focuses on Chaos Max, because a lot of times that seems like enough. Like you drop Chaos Max, make Dynamon, tell your opponent good luck playing your turn without activated monster effects, and then a lot of time that's enough. But itself, alongside Perfection, is really gross because you pretty much just play around any hand trap. Anything they may do to try and stop the combo on their turn, you have to stop with Perfection. So, but no,
now,
that ritual lineup was really good, solid for me.
Gotcha. Now, Miles, I will speak to what you just mentioned, and that was exclusively aiming for the Chaos Max. I will say that at the start, when this card first came out and the format shifted, that's exactly what I was trying to do. The thing I will say about that, though, is that your board ends up more oftentimes than not very lackluster. You're usually only getting the Chaos Max and then lining up cards in your hand.
Yeah.
And then you're passing on an empty board. So Kashtira can kind of just laugh at you because they're still going to put up a Fenrir or a Unicorn. And although we can still pretty easily kill through that, it can be kind of awkward sometimes. So I get what you're saying, and there's definitely room to explore there. But I think backing it up with Perfection like you did here makes a heck of a lot more sense.
I agree. It definitely was really nice throughout the day. I think the only time Perfection kind of wound up kicking me in the butt is when I played against this Kashtira player like the last round of the tournament. I won game 1 pretty handily, then game 2 I get D-shifter, then game 3. I think Perfection is really good into 1, maybe 2 hand traps, but he hand trapped me 3 times, so I wound up having no follow-up, trying to set my board up, and then that wound up killing me, even though I Chaos Maxed him. So like I Chaos Maxed him but had no follow-up. So if I can negate 1 or 2 times, it's great, because I still usually have follow-up, but if I have to negate 3 times, my opponent just opens the nuts in terms of hand traps, then it's not the best.
Kind of unfortunate, I get you.
Yeah.
Let's move on to those spells, and then we'll keep on going. We got Called By, Foolish, Triple Emergency, Double Fafnir, Double Nova, correct ratio. You have to play 2 Medionis as well. We've talked about this plenty of times. And then we got 2 Prep, 2 Talents, the 1 Dawn, and the 1 Harpies. Now, one thing I have to point out, I feel like you're relatively prepared to go second with this. I definitely think Talents is great and crazy. We all know how this out's a Rise Heart. I wanted to bring up here the Prep in the main. Now, playing a Perfection build, I can absolutely see it, but we've got the Thrust down here in the side instead of the main. Just maybe explain your ratios and your choices. When we look at the flex spots, what we see is the Preps and the Talents and the Harpies, but we know that you love to main deck Harpies. I don't have to question that one. But yeah, I am curious about the Talents and the Preps. Let me turn it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, actually, after the tournament, I was thinking about how the list performed, and it performed excellently. I did go to quite a few game 3s, but I don't think that's necessarily indicative of like the deck being in a bad spot or anything. Like this deck
Sometimes
goes,
that's just how it is with Drytron. You just,
sometimes
I
it's
find
just
that this
how it
deck
is.
goes to game threes relatively often. It's
It
not no
does.
fault of yourself. It's just because there's certain situations and there are side deck cards that people will bring in when they're going first that just makes it very challenging.
I agree, and I think as a Drytron player, you just kind of have to embrace the fact you're going to go to game 3, and if you're going second, actually, in this deck, I feel like you have such a good shot to steal game 3s going second because the deck is so aggressive. And that's what I've always loved about Drytron is people think of Drytron as a going first kind of ignorant deck. But in my opinion, after playing the deck for 2 years and having a lot of experience on it, the deck is way better going second, actually, than it is going first. I know it sounds kind of insane, but when you get the chance to go second and play this deck with like a playable hand, you just feel like you can't lose. So that being said, I do think I would have gone to less game 3s if I had found a way to squeeze in a third prep and a third triple tack. So prior to playing this list, I didn't have a ton of experience on this particular build because I typically have played Amber Factor post Eva getting banned.
Right.
But I decided to play this build for the tournament because I thought people would be shifting back towards hand traps. And I think this deck is slightly better into hand traps, even though, of course, Thrust gives you auto wins playing Amber Factor. Nib is a concern because going into Griffin against anyone who's semi-competent as a player can get just cooked by an Imperm or a Nib or a Veiler or whatever. So that always felt super scary. And so I wound up going with this ratio of 2 prep and 2 talents. But if I had an opportunity to rethink the list, I would try and find the space for a third prep and a third talents. This deck can combo a lot easier with one name than any other build. So
that's right.
I think you can get away with triple prep and triple talents. Talents, when I drew it, was absolutely incredible all weekend. So I think I would have tried to finagle 3 prep and 3 talents in the main deck somehow. I don't know where. Maybe go to 2 Alteus, 2 Kara. Would be like the little flex slots. I could try those in. Because prep in this deck goes way harder than I could have imagined. Like, you draw prep, and actually it's not even the getting the fairy part, it's the getting the ritual spell back.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It feels really good when you actually get to ritual summon 4 times in a turn.
Oh my god. Like, I remember one game I had a prep, and I did the prep thing, and then I used my ritual spell, freely because I was going to get the ritual spell back with the prep. Brought back the bin 10, tributed off for Alteus, drew another prep off the Alteus, searched a fairy with the bin 10, and then was able to combo into basically 5 or 6 fairies in hand off the preps. So yeah, it's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, guys, for those of you who are unaware, and if it wasn't obvious by that tail, prep is not once per turn.
Yes, no, it's actually a really crazy card. I think it came out in Star Strike Blast, so.
Yes, it was around that time. I know back in the day of Necroz, they ended up putting it to 1 for a long time.
Yeah, the card is actually insane in this particular build. So I think I'd like to find a way to put in 3 of those and 3 talents. So.
Gotcha. All right, well, we'll think about that. We'll logic it out going forward. But let's talk about this side deck, okay? Because there's a lot to talk about here. I'm going to go through the stuff that we don't have to talk about too much, and then we're going to spend time talking about a lot of stuff. So we got the Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, or excuse me, Gravity Dragon, which is an obvious side-in against the back row decks. We talked to Jordy Wang about this one. Honestly, it makes too much sense. Every build should be siding this. Me, myself, I am also putting this in my side deck going forward. It makes those matchups relatively free. We got the Thrusts, as well as Change of Heart, no questions there. The Hey Trunade makes a lot of sense to me, too. We see a lot of people putting this in because of just how great it is against decks like Labyrinth and Trap Tricks. We've got the Book of Eclipse as a one of. We're gonna talk about that. The Droplets, the Dark Ruler, Triple Skullmeister, and Triple Contact C. Let's take it one step at a time.
Let's start on the right side. Let's start with
okay, sure. Start with the Contact C. What the heck are we doing here? I have an idea, but let me hear you say it.
Okay, so I'll explain Contact C in 2 parts. So let's explain it alongside Skullmeister. So Despia is a problem. Because I think post-siding, it has the best game 1 out of any deck. And I know that sounds really crazy because Kashtira's flying around, but Kashtira, even when they go first and do the zone lock thing, it's so readable and so hand trappable and very predictable. And a lot of them don't even go for lock 5 zones anymore. Like a Rise Heart Pass is getting more and more popular. So, the puppet makes Despia absolutely terrifying when you're going second.
Yep.
And so I was trying to find cards with my testing group that met 2 requirements. Made it really hard for them to puppet you, get to expulsion, that's obvious, but then also didn't lose to Aqua Dolphin.
That's true, and Ash loses to Aqua Dolphin.
Ash loses to Aqua Dolphin. Bell also loses to Aqua Dolphin, but Contact C does not. And we were labbing out we weren't labbing it out, but we asked a good Despia player in our area, how hard is it to puppet us when we Contact C you? And we kind of trusted his word with it, because I don't play a lot of Despia. And he was like, I basically have to have a perfect hand in order to puppet you through a Contact C. It makes it really awkward and weird, and I think they have to burn like a ton of cards to do it. And then on Skullmeister has 2 applications, actually. Well, it's got some decent applications, oddly enough. Is that it stops Albion from setting the expulsion during the end phase and doesn't lose to Aqua Dolphin, which I was terrified of. It's a bad top deck into expulsion, but I think if you're relying to top deck Bell, like, you probably weren't winning that game anyway. Meister does that, and Meister also hits Big Welcome, and Meister also hits Naturia Sacred Tree. So it's not that bad right now. And I felt very confident going into the tournament that I needed multiple cards in my side deck to deal with Puppet. So
there you go. I actually can definitely understand that one.
Like, in testing, anytime I lose the die roll to Despia, if game 1 is a good game and I'm able to take it, I can win the match because I get to go first game 3. And they usually don't side a pile of hand traps. They'll side some Bystials, and I'll be prepped for that with like Thrust and Change of Heart. And I can usually now, because of Thrusts, I can punish the Bystials a little harder. But if I lose game 1, the match is like really, really, really hard to win because game 3 they just puppet you.
Right.
So, yeah. And then, do you want to keep going left or what?
I do. I mean, you don't have to explain the Dark Ruler to me. I get it. It's one of the thrust targets. It's actually a very important thrust target, whether it be outing in a Rise Heart or good against Sprite. Exactly. But the Droplets. Now, I haven't been a fan of this card in this current format for obvious reasons. I don't think many people have been. And I've heard the argument, of course, that Drytron is the best deck to play Droplets. That's a given. But what made you want to play it for this event, and how good was it for you?
Okay, so I'll explain Droplet alongside Gravity and a Book of Eclipse. So if you want to scoot those all together, we can do that, and then we'll talk about them.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, okay. In my testing, over the past few weeks, I've been playing this deck. I played against a bunch of Trap Tricks and a bunch of Labyrinth. I think the last time I tallied up the totals over maybe the last 4 or 5 locals, I played against 15, and this is with the regional included. I played against 15 Trap Tricks or Labyrinth decks, and I am 15-0 against them. And that is because of these 4 cards. So this can sound really counterintuitive, but against Labyrinth and Trap Tricks, I bring in all 4 of these. I bring in the Book, I bring in the Gravity, and I bring in the Droplet. That's because Labyrinth plays Skill Drain. Right. And one of the best ways to outplay that deck is to get them to think you're committing to a play that does nothing, and then Droplet off your Gravity Dragon and bounce all the back row. That's cool. And also Droplet is just really good against rogue decks. Like Naturia Runic is still a deck, and if you stick the Nat Beast in the graveyard, they just reborn it with Blessing, and so I can just stop Nat Beast with Droplet, which is nice. So
fair enough. Now, all right, I actually, that has been an excellent explanation for some of these questions that would definitely appear to be unorthodox to the untrained eye. So thank you for breaking it down for us. Now let's get back into some familiar territory here, and that's with the extra deck. There's going to be a lot of things in here that make a heck of a lot of sense to me. And we've got our Entis and Herald, our usual targets, our usual suspects. Beatrice, of course, double Zeus, double Moy Beta, the assembled Nightingale, we're going to talk about that, the Apo and Access Code, and the Dynamond Unicorn, IP, Phoenix, and Linkaribo, which should be Anima, but he's not going to listen to me on that one, so I'm not going to try.
Yeah.
Let's start with the thing that you really wanted to talk about, the assembled Nightingale. Why do you wish you did not play this card and instead played our friend Fuko?
Yeah, so Assembled is still a good card. I don't want to hate on this card because in the past, I think she was correct. But unfortunately, this was an area that I did not consider. Is that Big Eye is in the format? It sounds so obvious now, but I played a match against Kashtira. I think I was undefeated and he was undefeated at the time. I think this was round 7. We're both 7-0. Maybe we're both 6-0. I don't remember exactly when. But he D-shifters me. Games 2 and 3, I get D-shiftered. And of course, I have the play to play around it. So I'm like, okay, Alpha tribute Ben 10, go grab a ritual follow-up. Alteus tribute that Ben 10, draw a card. All good. That last Ben 10, go search Lancia. Right. And then I overlay into the assembled to buy me a turn. And then he steals my assembled with a Big Eye, switches it to attack mode, and makes a Zeus with my own assembled, and there's a material stuck under it. So, yeah, it was. So this was not the right call. I 100% should have played Fuko, just because the unaffected part is really clutch, right. And then the fact that it allows me to put both materials in the graveyard at once is actually kind of good. So,
I definitely concur with that. Now, there's one other thing I want to ask about here, and that's the Linkaribo. Why not play Animo? What do you prefer to have the zone pointing down? Do you find that its on-field effect comes up? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I like the on-field effect. I also like the arrows because I just really value the co-linked unicorn.
Fair.
I've done that. I'm not unicorn. Phoenix.
The Phoenix.
Yeah. Co-linked Phoenix is a play that has come up way too often for me to get rid of. And then I think the one other card you want to talk about is probably Access Code, because I know that's like right now it's like between Bulbasaur and Access Code, as it always has been.
Right.
But for me, recently Access Code has just been a little more correct, only because of Labyrinth's existence. If there was no skill drain deck in the format, I'd play Bulbasaur. I love that card. But because there's a skill drain deck in the format, I just decided to be playing Access Code. And obviously, I love Appaloosa too. Like that card came up way.
This one's all you, my man. And I know how much you love this card. But tell me what you were summoning this into, because we all know summoning into a Fenrir sucks buns. But what?
Yeah.
What were you summoning this?
Never make it against Kashtira ever.
Right.
But at these tournaments, especially during diverse formats, and I do consider like the format that I'm in when I'm making card choices, because it's a diverse format, I actually don't expect to play against Kashtira every round. Mm-hmm. And so anytime you play against something where you crack their board and can't quite kill them, Appaloosa is always the best thing to go into. Like my Swordsoul matchup, I made this guy game 2 after cracking his board. I wasn't able to kill him because I decided the right play was to go battle phase and then Zeus him to play through pretty much everything, and then just set up a board in main phase 2. Mm-hmm. And I make Appo on his turn with IP, and then he can't play. Like all the Tinnies are turned off, all the little, if you top deck Moyi, I would turn that off. So Appaloosa is just really good in nice simplified game states against rogue decks, and so that's kind of like the theory behind her.
Got it. All right. Well, outside of that, this is looking good. I agree with you on the Fuko change. I still disagree with you on the Linkaribo, but we're going to agree to disagree. Mind you, he's not siding Lava Golem. We'll let him get away with it.
Yep.
Well, Miles, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here on the stream and on the channel. Before we close this out, is there anything else you want to add in, whether it be about the deck, about Drytron in general, about the current state of the format? The floor is yours, my friend.
Great. Yeah, so I guess, I don't know. I can talk about lots of things. I actually really liked it and enjoy this format. I know that like anytime you go on Twitter, you're going to see a lot of pro guys talking crap about this format. But I think there is a different, I think the nuanced perspective about diverse formats is that they allow for a different type of skill expression than do, triangle or one deck formats. And so even though I'm not going to talk poorly about tier limit format, I know a lot of people enjoyed it and there definitely was a lot of skill involved. I think this format's actually pretty skilled for players who have a lot of matchup knowledge. And so if you can grind matchup knowledge, you'll do really well this format. And also Drytron is in a really, really good spot. You'll never, ever lose to Trap Tricks or Labyrinth if you know those matchups decently well. And Drytron goes through like little golden eras where deck building becomes like super intriguing and fun. And Drytron, I feel like, is another one of those golden eras where you can build it 3 or 4 different ways and see success, and find all sorts of different little avenues to take the deck. And so, if you aren't playing Drytron, I would recommend maybe giving it a shot and looking at it maybe as a little fun pet deck. And if you've been playing Drytron for a long time, then this is our format.
This is literally our format. That's what I'm saying, bro. Just pick up the darn deck, get ready to rock and roll, head to the regionals and top, because you're gonna.
Yeah,
if you practice hard enough and you got that little lady luck on your side, you're gonna be doing wonderful, wonderful things. But with that, my friends, again, a huge shout out and thank you to Miles for coming on the channel. I'm gonna wrap up this video here. Logan JYA, sign off. Have a great day. I'll see you beautiful people later. Peace.
心の隙間埋める